came out and disclosed that he had been contacted by the United States, by the Chinese ambassador to the United States. And of course, within a day of this incident, Secretary of State Colin Powell and Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge promised the Chinese government that Robert Rhodes would be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Not that the case would be investigated, that he would be prosecuted. Let me tell you, Robert Rhodes was prosecuted. The evidence was overwhelming that Robert did nothing wrong. The prosecution's own physician said this woman was not seriously injured. No broken bones. One of the officers who took Zhao Yan down to the ground caused her to sustain a bump on her head and some abrasions, and Robert used pepper spray. There wasn't a single broken bone. There wasn't a single serious abrasion, no cut, no loss of blood. That didn't stop the prosecution from going forward. Now, the officers who wanted to testify in Robert's behalf, most of them were scared away from doing it, because in the first time in my career, the union was threatened. The union was told by the United States Attorney's Office, you better not help Officer Rhodes, you better not meet with Mr. Cohen. How could that possibly be? There's an obscure regulation that says that Customs and Border Protection officers can't meet with criminal defendants unless there's a federal attorney present. Well, the union reps from Robert's own union, the Treasury Federal Employees, the
National Treasury Employees Union.
Thank you. National Treasury Employees Union. They're all Customs and Border Protection officers, and they were not permitted to help Robert. Finally, the National got involved, and eventually, although the locals were scared, the local union leadership was scared away from this, the Nationals finally got involved, sent a letter, and very late in the game, the union was allowed to participate. Officers who testified on Robert's behalf, few and far between, willing to come to court, they are to this day being prosecuted. One of them left the force completely.
Can I add something, Steve?
Yeah.
One of the officers that testified on the government's behalf, one of the officers that testified on the government's behalf was granted overtime the day that she testified for the government. The day that she testified for me, the supervisor on duty ripped up her overtime card right in front of her.
The persecution of anyone who came forth with evidence to exonerate Robert Rhodes is clearly documented, and it's ongoing to this day. There is a reason that the morale at Customs and Border Protection and at the United States Border Patrol is among the lowest of any profession in the United States. These people don't know what to do. They're at the border, and they don't know, hey, do we listen to message A from President Bush and his cabinet of advisors and get the bad guys and prevent people from infiltrating our borders? Or do we look at the lessons that we could learn from such heroes as Robert Rhodes, Campion, Ramos, et al., and say, wait a minute. We should talk to them, and if people don't listen to us and they attempt to use any measure of force to get through our borders, we better just stand back and let them, because I don't want to spend 10 to 15 years in jail. I've got a family to feed.
And Steve, many of the officers have told me that I've worked with at Rainbow Peace Bridge and Lewiston Bridge in Buffalo, Niagara Falls, New York, that they're afraid to even go after anyone anymore. They would just let them go right down the road rather than risk what happened to me.
I urge the investigative reporters that are doing this story to interview border officers and let them be properly shielded and ask them, what are you going to do if somebody tries to forcibly get through the border? And if they're like the 300 or 400 officers that I spoke with over the course of my 1 year in preparing for this trial, they're going to tell you, it's just not worth it. We're letting them through. Now,